Hey, what's up everybody? It's Lids, and we're back for some more Rogue Mage / Golden Nekker, the new single-player Gwent game that just came out. Last time, we took a first look at a bunch of the game mechanics, but we did not finish a run, so I think we're just gonna hop straight back in here and try to continue from where we were. So I'm hoping that we can basically stop mid-run and pick back up where we left off whenever we'd like, and it seems as though that is the case, so that's good to see. And had a little more time to think about what I thought about, first impressions of the game. And I think overall, I did very much like the game. I think it has a bit of a different feel compared to Gwent multiplayer, where it's a little bit more casual, it seems, little less brain power necessary, and some mechanics we talked about a little bit that differ between Gwent multiplayer and Rogue Mage here, which for the most part I think are simplifications, which is part of the reason why I come to that sentiment, but we'll talk more about that as we progress here. Now, we are currently in this spot. We went this way. I believe this is our current location, is it not? I think it is. And then, yeah, because these ones are lit up here. So we have a place of power, which we did see once before, and we have a normal battle. We do have an elite battle. Now, we've not yet seen one of these. What I wonder is, I imagine they're, of course, considerably more difficult to complete. Now, does that mean that we should deliberately avoid them because they pose a greater threat? Or do we instead perhaps go for them, and if we have the means to successfully complete them, then they might give us better rewards at the end, so it's a higher risk, higher reward standpoint, or they just purely, avoid at all costs. There's no benefit to going down that route. I don't know, so I am curious. But we did try out this place of power before, and I don't know if we can expect exactly the same here. I mean, I guess if we are looking to go for the elite battle, then this is the direction to go. We, in fact, might end up going into another elite battle soon thereafter. So, it definitely looks like that is the more difficult route to take. Oh, I didn't even see. We can go up here into the snowy area. That's cool. More elite battles to get over there, though. But, okay. Let's, we'll try it out. We'll go this route. Go into the place of power, and we currently have 69 energy, so this would get us up fairly high, which, I mean, we've used a tiny bit of energy for the other battles. Oh, interestingly, yeah, okay, so we did see some places of power that had different colors to them. Now, in the original Witcher 3 games, there are places of power, they're a thing in the game, and they are all for different signs or Witcher abilities, and so it seems as though perhaps each color / ability here gives you a different option to choose from, and the backup plan is you'll always have the choice of going for the 20 energy if for whatever reason this doesn't look good to you. So we can transform a card, which of course means we're probably looking to transform one of our weaker cards into, hopefully, a stronger card. Bit of a dice roll. It seems like it's a higher risk, higher reward compared to what we saw last time, which was just increase the power of a card by 3, which is obviously good in any circumstance. So, although I am kind of wondering if we might want energy heading into the elite battle, because we've used a little bit of energy in the normal battles, but it seems like, if the elite battles are going to be harder, then that's probably going to be one of the key difference makers, is we're going to want to use that ability more often. So, we'll see what this is all about, though. Let's test out the transformation. Oh, we can choose any card at all. Wow. Or at least it certainly seems that way. We have a lot of options here. Okay, so Trident Infantry is the one that we updated and upgraded. So I think we'll definitely find as we go on through our Rogue Mage playthroughs that I'm sure there are different types of builds that you can have in terms of directions you want to go in. We have thus far, at least starting off with, had a bunch of boosting cards, and then one card that is our preferred recipient of said boosts. Technically, the Aedirnian Mauler is an alternative option, where this is sort of one big burst of damage, whereas this is a little bit of damage every time we get a boost. This is random enemy that gets targeted. This is an enemy that we can actually choose the specific target of. So maybe we keep you guys, but I bring that up because I think we're going to the greatest extent possible, going to want to try to go and embrace whatever archetype we're trying to build around here. And so that means if we're trying to boost and have specific targets of those boosts, then we want to emphasize that and maybe a little less emphasis on the direct damage of cards like One-Eyed Betsy. I mean, still a good card, because 4 damage, potentially as much as 6, is a lot, so I'm hesitant to just completely remove that. But do we have similar cards here? Not really. I mean, we have, outside of Crossbowman, which is one of the ones that we added recently. I mean, sure, we'll try swapping that out. See what we get. No choice. It looks like it's just completely random. That is a great card in Gwent multiplayer. Morkvarg, Heart of Terror. Do we get a chance to look at our deck here? Looks like we can. Okay, so this is our first time checking this out, but we just picked up, yes, Morkvarg, Heart of Terror. Deploy, so don't think we really discussed this before, but it's common for Gwent multiplayer cards, of course, to see this deploy ability. It just means that when you play this card on the board, it's going to trigger this ability immediately. So damage an enemy unit by 1, repeat until the target becomes damaged. So that phrasing there might sound like it's not that intuitive, or might sound very simple, but it's actually, there is a bit of nuance there. So the way that this works is, if your opponent has its starting amount of power on a unit, you hit it once, and it is damaged. It has less power than it started with. If, however, you're targeting an opposing unit that has a certain amount of power that it started with, and then it had received a whole bunch of boosts, kind of like we've been trying to do to our Trident Infantry. Say it started off at 5 power, but it's been boosted all the way up to a 10, then this would hit it, hit it, hit it, and hit it again until it goes below its starting power. So basically, drop it down to 4. So in that situation, if they have that 5 power card boosted up to a 10, we damage it 6 times down to 4. If it is a 5 power card and it has not been boosted at all, we damage it once down to 4. So situational in that it is best against a highly boosted target, but if there is a highly boosted target, then we can do a whole lot of damage to it. So definitely more of the damage archetype, but probably a better type of card along the damage lines than what we had previously. So an upgrade for sure. Still not really all that synergistic with what we are doing here with the rest of our deck. If anything, it is a really good counter for our opponents to use against us. But one other question that I had previously was, I was wondering if it was possible to go backwards. If, say, we liked a certain type of reward, but we want to see, like, oh, maybe we can go back and do another battle and get another place of power and just get all of the bonuses. I kind of doubt that's possible, but can we do it? No, we cannot. Okay, it will not let us go backwards. So that's good to know. We did see, of course, on the previous occasion that we ran into an obstacle that forced us to change our trajectory. So it's possible through other circumstances at the question marks, the events, but we can't do it of our own accord. And the other thing this reminds me of is Slay the Spire, also a card game, also a roguelike game, and has a similar type of map in which you choose what type of encounters you want to go through before you eventually, if you're successful, make it all the way through to the boss. So, does bear some resemblance to that, I think. Of course, it is Gwent, though, and here is our first elite battle. So what is the deal here? Okay. What does this guy do? He starts with some friends. There's certainly that much. So let's see what his deal is. At the end of your turn, damage a random enemy unit by 1. Increase damage by 1 for every missing chapter enforcer. Hold on. Chapter... Are these guys all considered chapter enforcers? I assume they probably are. So basically, he's going to poke us for a little bit of damage every turn. If we destroy these guys, then that damage becomes more significant. 1 damage per turn, it's something, but it's not an amazing amount. But if that becomes 2, 3, or 4 damage every turn once we start getting rid of these guys, then that becomes a potentially a big issue. So that's why it seems like damage is not the best option against this opponent. We do have a Trident Infantry, which can be the target of our boost, so that's great. We may not want to have 2 targets of our boosts. Now, technically speaking, in Gwent multiplayer at least, loading up on a ton of boosts in one card is risky, because if they have a way to destroy one specific card, or sometimes there are cards that can destroy a card that is on high power, then we've invested absolutely everything in this guy, all of our eggs in one basket, and someone steps on that basket. We're in serious trouble. So for that reason, there's something to be said for having 2 potential targets for our boosting, but since we have this Girdle of Giant Strength, with which we benefit from loading up on as many boosts as possible on one card to double the power of that card, I think this is a combo that we're just going to fully embrace here and probably dump you. Not to mention we can get Ramon to create another copy of a Trident Infantry if we want to get one more of those, but I mean, Morkfrog, we just picked it up. As I was saying, very good potential for damage, but as we were also just saying, that's maybe not so much what we're trying to do on this occasion. So, tempting as it is, I think we are actually going to mulligan him. Okay, and it's not really what we want either, this Eternian Mauler. So, because we mulliganed out of one of them before, what we were really looking for would be Sumerian Drummers, Reynard, Zoltan, those guys, even recruits, to maximize the boosts. We can use our leader ability here to boost up a card by using a spell to power it up by 3, which is perhaps the direction we're going to go in here. Now, we could start with the Nekker, which, when you're playing a Nekker, you want to play it early because it's a Thrive card, so it gains power over time. The problem with this is that when we do that, I think they're going to both get up to 2 power, even the one that gets spawned in. I think the Thrive will immediately trigger on that. So it shouldn't get immediately destroyed by this guy unless they have... Hold on, let's see. Do they have additional damage on these guys? I mean, obviously, we're not going to want to destroy them, at least not until perhaps the very end. Whenever your opponent plays a non-unit card, boost self by 2. Okay, so this is going to get boosted over time. Okay, so that makes some sense. That, you know, it's basically a risk-reward of... Or rather, two sides of a coin. On one hand, we can leave these guys on the board and minimize the damage from the boss, or we can destroy them and deny them whatever value they're going to get from staying here, because these guys do generate value over time, it seems. You're going to get boosted whenever we play a non-unit card. We have mostly units here, but this is not a unit. Unit is a card that has base power. It's basically like usually a person or monster. So the one exception is our Girdle of Giant Strength, which this indicator here means that it is technically called a special card, and the category special card is treasure. So that is the one thing that would boost this guy up by 2. What else do they have? Whenever your opponent plays a spell, boost self by 4. Yikes. Okay, so that makes our spells less impactful, because I was thinking that we would use the spell to boost this guy by 3. It's 3-point boost on you, and then 1 damage when it gets boosted, which means it's a total of 4 points of value, which, if you're getting 4 points of value, then that means we're basically on net gaining nothing from doing that, other than, I mean, technically it does set up Girdle Giant Strength for more effective finisher. So, yes, long-term it actually is still a little bit beneficial, but somewhat questionable. Nonetheless, whenever a unit appears in the enemy melee row, damage it by 2. Okay, so we want to try to avoid the melee row. Then Death Wish, so it has a shield, so that means when it gets damaged, it mitigates all damage the first time around, then it loses the shield, and from then on you can actually deal damage to it and lower its power. Death Wish means if it gets destroyed, it triggers that effect. Your opponent draws a card. Oh. Okay, so that's actually pretty good benefit if we can destroy this guy. I think maybe near the end, destroying him, drawing a card so we can take one more turn. That could be quite beneficial. And that might be what we do with the Eternian Mauler. Okay. So I think we're still going Thrive first here. And then it's going to be the Trident Infantry. And I don't think we've tested this before, because we haven't really done much with our spells yet, but there's a chance that we can only do so many spells in one turn. Like, we probably can only use 1 spell per turn. So if we feel like we do need them, then we should start using them early. Otherwise, we might run out of time, because if they start really establishing a big lead, then it might be too late to make up ground with our spells. So if we feel like we might need it, we should do it a little bit early on, so we don't get fall too far behind where it becomes impossible for us to catch them. I think we will still go without the spell now, because we have established that when we do play spells, they will benefit a bit. Okay, Nithral. Is it the same as multiplayer Nithral? I think it is. He's row locked from the melee row in multiplayer. It's apparently not the case here. So he deals 1 damage every turn, basically, unless they have the highest unit on the board, in which case he deals 2 damage every turn. So yeah, they're going to hit us for a fair bit of damage, it seems, and we don't want to be drawn into all these Eternian Maulers. So this was the case we talked about a little bit before, that it can make sense to discard or remove a card from your deck if it doesn't synergize that well. We had the option of either adding or removing a card previously. We chose to add, but That means that we have more cards in our deck and more likely to draw into things other than the cards that we really want right now, because these are not the things we want. So, I mean, we're probably still playing Trident Infantry, especially because it would be the highest unit on the board, so it would lower Nethral's damage by 1. So that is tempting. Then the question might become, once we do get you out, do we boost you up with a spell? We were talking about how, in some ways, on net, it's a 0-point play, although it's going to spend energy, so in that way, it's, we can't do it forever. But it does still set up the Girdle of Giant Strength to make that a more effective last move. So maybe it is still worth doing that. We'll play the Trident Infantry. It should boost our Thrives, because this has higher power than our Thrive cards do. So that's why they both got boosted. And I think we'll go for it. Okay, so this is our most ambitious spell, and therefore the one that's most likely to generate more than 4 points of value. So there perhaps is a case to be made for going that route. We could also go 3 damage and destroy you, but I think we don't really... You're definitely the most avoidable card, or at least, we can just not play anything in the melee row for a long time and not have to worry about that all that much. Also, we probably should have gone Ramon into Trident Infantry. We can still do the Eternian Mauler, but that's not as interesting. If we draw into Temerian Drummer, though, that will definitely be the route we go there. Yeah. Maybe we go this route. Let's see. Do we get to choose among a list of cards? We do. We do. Okay, so this is the card I was saying that I would very much like for us to get, because this gives us a better way to boost up the Trident Infantry. And we don't actually want the boost on the Thrive units, at least not from Liliana, because now that this is on 6 power, you just saw that it did not get boosted when we played the Temerian Drummer, because this is higher than this card, so that means, by definition, we are not triggering Thrive. At least not in that case. We were in that case, though. So we want all of our additional boosts to go to Trident Infantry. And right now, Portal is the card in our graveyard. Okay. We'll leave it at this for now. So we wanted to establish this early. They're going to try to go after Temerian Drummer, potentially. Oh, Vigo's Muzzle is a big card. It is almost the same as it is in Gwent multiplayer in that it locks, can we look at it here? It locks a unit, which means it can no longer use its ability, but it also steals a unit from our side of the board and puts it onto our opponent's side of the board, as long as it costs, or as long as it has 5 or less power, and that was the case for the Temerian Drummer, so it's been locked, which means it can no longer boost every turn, but that was a valuable card for us. We did fortunately just draw into one, and we can go with Ramon to create an additional copy of this, which I think is definitely what we'll look to do here. So let's go that route.
Again and again and again.
And play it next to Trident Infantry to boost this up every turn. I'm wondering what the timing should be of this, and how much do we feel like we need another spell here at the moment? I mean, they started with a point advantage because they had a bunch of cards on the board. I think we can make do for the time being. Okay, so Synthesis. Same as Gwent multiplayer, and I'm sure we're going to make tons of comparisons to Gwent multiplayer, which, if you guys aren't playing, is very similar, of course, and I highly recommend it if you like what you're seeing from Rogue Mage. Reynard is another good early card to play, similar to the Temerian Drummer, so I think we will probably go with that next. This is going to deal 5 damage on their next turn, which they might use to get rid of the Thrive card is probably the most likely way they would go about using it, I think. Yeah. Okay, so you're 1 point per turn. You're also 1 point per turn. So not... I guess we'll still go Reynard here. Don't love it, because it does mean we're boosting a Thrive card, which, as we said before, is not really ideal. But we have taken the lead here, for the time being at least. Okay, they are trying to go after Trident Infantry, which is unfortunate. Oh no! Okay, so this is what I was talking about before.
Death can come where blood does not.
the thing that I warned myself about previously, that there are some ways in which you can remove a card without just dealing upfront damage to it, and poison is one of them. So this is the first time we've seen poison in Rogue Mage. I assume it works the same way. So Morale, on deploy, when they play it, will poison an enemy, and then on their next turn with their Order ability, they can poison again. What does poison do? Well, you can probably guess. Once a unit gets poisoned once, doesn't do anything yet, but the second round of poison will remove it altogether, regardless of how much power it has. So this is a way in which they can just completely remove our Trident Infantry, which is potentially a problem. The way we could stop them from doing that would be if we can remove Morale on this turn, which technically there is a way we could do that. Eternian Mauler takes a turn before we can actually use his damage, and even then it's not going to be worth all that much damage. So it doesn't matter how much we boost Trident Infantry, he's going to get destroyed unless we can answer Morale right here, right now. How do we do that? I think we can still make it happen. If we use a spell to deal 3 damage to hit you, it is going to boost you because we played a spell. Why did it boost you? Whenever our opponent plays a non-unit card. Oh, yeah. Well, guess what? We're about to do it again. Using Liliana to get the Thunder. And the reason we did that... Why did you get boosted? Oh, right, because she boosts a random card whenever we play a spell. Okay, so I guess that does kind of almost cancel out the Illuminator. But the reason why we did that was assuming that they don't have any more poison, which I'm really hoping they don't have, then we've now protected Trident Infantry. So that's the good thing. The bad thing is, well, they might still be able to make that happen. They might still be able to remove him. So we do need to be a little bit careful, and we might want to start setting up an alternative target of our boosts with an Eternian Mauler in case they do get rid of him. So it's a little scary. I mean, we do have additional boosting cards, technically speaking. Let's go here. Because the earlier we played Temerian Drummer, the better, and Raynor does give us long-term value as well. He's boosting every card that we play, so we'd like to make sure that he survives too. So for the moment, we'll go here. Go there. They will go after Reynard. There is no more poison. Ah! They do have it. Oh, dear. Oh, dear. Okay, so getting rid of Morale, as it turns out, was not enough to stop them from getting rid of a card. So now that means we're definitely going after the Eternian Mauler for our boosts here. That'll give us damage. But the other thing we could do is we can remove, or we can get value from removing Nithral, which would likely be the target of the Eternian Mauler at this point. Unless they damage him significantly and lower the value of this damage. I mean, it's still not enough by itself, at least. But that's at least what is on the radar here. And we can use Stennis on our next turn. Ideally in the melee row, even if that does mean he's going to take a little bit of damage in order to power this up and give us the damage to actually remove Nithral altogether. We are no longer in the lead. They have, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cards. We only have 4. Ooh. Ooh. This concerns me. This does concern me. Is it time to play another spell? Now, they do have a highly boosted card. This is the perfect example of a time where it would be useful to play Morkvar Card of Terror. I mean, ideally even at the very end of the match. And it would mean that in this case, in order for this to count as damaged, since it starts at 3 power, that would mean damaged is 1 below its starting power, so 2. So that means we deal 12 damage to this guy with Morkvar Card of Terror, which is a lot. So if we could use this in order to get a portal and get a Morkvarg to answer you, that would be great. But is that something we want to do here? We might. I think we might. We're looking for it. Technically, the later we do it, the better, but oh, we don't get it. In fact, do we have Savior in our deck? We do not have some of these cards in our deck, so it's possible to get things that are not in your deck at all, which is surprising. Whenever you play unit, gain 1 armor. Barricade, meaning if it has armor, then that ability triggers. If it has armor, it'll get boosted by 1. So It's an engine, an early round card that gains value over time. Starts weak, but gains value over time. And it is getting a little late in the round. Alpha Werewolf is another Thrive card. It's actually Thrive 2. So that means when we play a card that is higher than the Alpha Werewolf, it gets boosted by 2 rather than the usual 1. So another card that, in this case, is actually tends to be more of a middle round play. And immunity means that it can't be directly targeted by our opponent. So it's nice in that way, but I'm not really sure we're going to be able to trigger that Thrive at all. So it's basically just a 6-power body, which is not that impressive. And might as well go for Xavier in that case. So I guess that's what we're doing. Not really what I was looking for. Not really what I wanted. But alas, we will go that route. Okay. And they're going to target Xavier here. Olgierd. Cannot change power. Same as in multiplayer. Same as in multiplayer. Okay. So basically just means we don't want to target him for damage. Now we are going to be forced to play a card in the melee row here because we do not have space in our range row anymore. 9 cards is the most you can fit in a row. We deliberately, of course, avoided the melee row for as long as possible so we were not going to take the damage from this guy. But at this point, could actually, rather than, I was saying we might want to target an Enthrall, we could, if we boost this guy up enough, potentially go after you with Stennis melee row to power you up by a lot, and then maybe recruit as well, and then Girdle Giant Strength to finish things off to set you up for the big final blow. So that's an option. You do boost another card in her hand, so that might mean that it's worth playing you first. But I'm not loving the way this is all matching up here right now. The numbers are not currently going in our favor here. So might we once again try for something similar here and go big or go home? Go for the portal. We're really looking for Morkvarg. I was hoping that there weren't that many possibilities. It was just going to give us the option of cards in our deck so that there's a smaller pool of options and a higher chance of us getting the cards that we see here, because there is a specific card that we like on this occasion. But if it can give us any card at all, then of course there's a wide range, and that wide range includes many cards that are probably not all that useful to us right now. But we're going to try once again. We're getting aggressive here, but it feels like we might need to get aggressive. As we were saying before, can't fall too far behind, otherwise we just won't have time to catch up. Lose 3 adjacent allied units by 1. Okay, there's some value there. Trident Infantry would have been another target for our boost, but at this point it's probably too late, and we are instead focusing on directing the boost toward Eternian Mauler. If anything, we just want boosts. With the Radovid's Royal Guard, which boosts an allied unit by 3, if it's inspired, meaning if he has more power than he would normally start with, then he would give it 3 armor as well, which Reynard technically would boost him by 1, but we're going to need to play him in the melee row where he's going to get damaged by 2, so no, he will not be inspired. So this is a 3-point boost on the card we want to give a boost to, whereas this is a 3 total boost, but split across some cards that we don't care as much about. 1 higher base power. I think this is still more valuable because every boost on you is actually worth 2 points. 1 for the direct points we have on your card, and then another point for the damage, additional damage we get when we use your ability. So I think it is still you. I think it is still you. Okay. So then we're up to 12. Means 9 damage on the order ability, which is, it's definitely enough to get rid of Thrall at this point, but we've basically dismissed Thrall. We've said instead that we'd like to go for a big burst of damage on the Illuminator. So, have we already played a card this turn? We may have. We have, yeah, it's not letting me play here. Okay. Okay, Dandelion, draw a card, play a card, so they're playing 2 cards on the same turn. Another really strong card. They are significantly significantly stronger than any deck we've seen thus far, and they move a bunch of cards into the melee row where they can make sure that we take the damage from the Chapter Warden, so it's all reasonably synergistic here. And we would kind of still like to play Sendis in the melee row for what it's worth. We would kind of like to do that. We once again get super aggressive on the abilities here. Now, it's a little deceptive. We haven't gotten the full value yet out of this card because we're going to get the 8, or hopefully more than that, damage. Oh, actually, they also moved it such that this Temerian Drummer is no longer boosting you every turn. That was devious, or this one's no longer boosting you every turn. So that's also certainly a downside. So, I mean, we could play the Eternian Mauler here, where it is going to get damaged by the Warden. It is going to get boosted every turn by this Temerian Drummer. So that's what? Still not enough turns to outweigh the damage we're going to take from this. Well, I mean, Reynard's still going to get the boost anyway. So yeah, it's equal. So in that case, I guess you're going here. Might as well put you next to this Temerian Drummer. And once again, the question becomes, is it worth using a spell here? It would boost you up even further. When we use this, double an allied unit's power, as things currently stand, assuming that your power doesn't change anymore, you'd get up to 22, which would mean that's a total of 18 boosts on you, which, this is not a spell, so it's not like you're going to get boosted any further. So, I mean, that's just about the amount that we need to catch them. We've unfortunately run out of most of our sources of boosts. Also, they have one more card in their hand than we do, which is possibly the most dangerous part, so I think we do still need to do this. Getting really, really aggressive on the spells here, but you know what? We didn't do much of them before, so now is a good time to go all in on them. So whenever you play a unit with a deploy ability, boost self by 2. Very similar to the multiplayer card, just a little bit stronger. A card you want to play early. Black Rayla, damage an enemy unit by 1 every turn, or damage it by 2 if she has a boost, which she would. If we played her in the range row, Reynard would boost her, she would not get damaged by you. Still a card you like to play early, though. At the end of your turn, boost self by 1 if you're already boosted up. So similar to Rayla, just in this case, they're both 1 point per turn. If they're inspired, though, if they're already boosted up, then Rayla actually gets 2 points per turn. So she is the best option here. But getting a lot of engines, a lot of cards that we would want to have gotten early when we're looking for finishers at this point. So it is going to be Rayla. But it is not exactly ideal. And yeah, we're still waiting on this, I think. Okay, and they're gonna target Rayla. More poison, okay. Presumably they're going after this guy. No, they're going after Xavier, really. Okay, so do they have enough poison to remove Xavier? They very well may. We don't have any ways to remove poison, and this guy, all he does is apply 1 poison when they play him. So it's not like removing him removes any threat of subsequent poisons. It's basically a question of, are they going to play another one from their hand? Possibly. So now what we're looking to do was Stennis melee row to maximize the boosts on you, so we get more damage on your order ability to finish by hitting this card. Rayla is no longer inspired. That lasted less than a turn, really. So we can get 1 damage out of her. We can actually... Oh, we got random boost on you. Okay, so you have 6 damage. In which case, we could remove Mithril. It's not a... it is 2 points per turn of damage right now, because they have the highest unit, right? So, I mean, we would have liked to have gotten the chance to do that first, or earlier, but we prioritized getting rid of you instead, or at least doing a lot of damage to you. So I think we will go this route. And then... if we can get rid of... no, you're no longer boosting, because you're not really any sort of long-term threat here. I mean, if we can destroy you, technically speaking, that would be nice. And we probably don't have the means to make that happen anymore. Unless we, once again, go leader ability, get a spell out here, and get another unit on the board, which, don't know. Maybe that's enough to make that happen, but maybe not. So, I mean, if we do damage you, then we're wasting 1 point of damage. We're just banking on having enough damage to actually get rid of you so we can draw another card, which would be valuable, but is that worth doing? We could poke you with Rayla, and then use a spell here to deal 3 damage. That would drop you down to 3, and then on our next turn we can use another spell to actually get rid of you right near the end, so we're minimizing the amount of time you benefit from dealing extra damage, but we do draw 1 more card, which is probably still worth it. If we drew into Morkfrog, then it would absolutely be worth it. It's still a, 1 in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so 20% chance that happens. It's not that likely, but that might be what we go for here. Yeah, not really the card that we want receiving that boost anyway, but alas. And we've not yet played Sinus. Okay. So yeah, that's, well, he is going to get damaged, but he does give us a bigger boost on the Eternian Mauler. Okay, Joachim gives us, they played on our side of the board, giving us a little bit of power, but no, they get a big boost on one of their cards. They can destroy a card with a status. So they destroy a card that had poison on it. It was an 8 power card, which is something. But now the plan is to go in, Thunder, remove you, and in doing so, draw a card. And it's Zoltan. Boost adjacent units by 4. It does mean we can get a lot more damage, or yes, out of this Eternian Mauler, give you at least enough power that you're not going to immediately get destroyed on our next turn, so there's something to be said for that. Or we can go over here and make Rayla inspired, so she's dealing 1 more damage per turn, which I don't think is as valuable. I mean, getting the extra damage out of this Eternian Mauler is definitely the most valuable option, and little bonus that we get the boost on Temerian Drummer as well. You also had armor, so you mitigated the damage that we would have taken from the Warden, so that's really nice. Make sure that we deal the damage here, and at this point, doesn't matter that much who we're going for, because he isn't really anyone who's providing long-term value other than all the chapter wardens and illuminators and what have you, who were trying to make a point of targeting on our next turn, once we boost you up with the girdle and get a huge source of damage. So we also now, after getting that card draw, we have Last Say, which is actually very big. We'll just hit, really, pretty much anyone here. Okay, Lacerate deals damage to everything in a row. Okay, so they are in the lead, but I think with the Eternian Mauler in particular, we can certainly still make this work. Because what we can do now is, I mean, if we felt we needed to, we could use this to boost up the Mauler and then double his power, but I think this should be more than enough. Doubling you up to 38, it does boost them in the process a little bit, but now we have 35 damage, which is just enough to remove this Chapter Illuminator, which is the big combo we were saving up for. Not to mention, we already have passed them, so it's technically not necessary, but I mean, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it. And then we have a little bit of damage on Rayla. And that will do the trick. In the end, yes, we did win by a fairly large margin, but you saw it took a whole lot more to make that happen. This time, we aggressively used our spells that time, so interesting. Definitely very noticeable difficulty hike there for the elite battle, but it is a victory. Okay, so the High Praetor has been defeated. And we can either evolve a key card. Okay, so I guess it's specifically one of our better cards. I assume that it's not a coincidence that it's showing us Reynard here. It is going to be him specifically, and he's not a bad card for us, so that does certainly appeal. Hedge Knight. 6 power, 6 armor, passive? So does that mean that he basically just appears on the board immediately, and we don't even need to play him directly from hand, so it's a free 6 points. Oh. Defeat an elite enemy to evolve. Okay, it doesn't tell us what we get when he evolves, does it? I did not realize that was a little description we had on him, though, so that might have told us a little bit more about what to expect from completing this. So part of me feels like getting the automatic points is preferable, because that means that we're always going to get this 6 additional points of value, whereas for Reynard, we get that value if we draw him. But if he's sitting in our deck, like we saw with Morkvar, Card of Terror, which actually we had, I think, initially, but we chose to mulligan, then we're not getting the value from him then. So that's why it's definitely riskier to go this route. This is the safe approach, but I don't know what we're going to get from evolving him. We'll do it in the name of science, because I am curious to see how significant the evolution is. We'll definitely want to take a look there.
Scurry off, chapter vermin. Return to your short-sighted oligarchs. I will not be bound by their inane regulations.
Calm down, Dave. They will see we are in the right one day. This is why we must remain focused.
And tell Stammelford my ass is ripe for the kissing.
Okay. So we certainly see the occasional dialogue, at least it's always after a battle in particular. But definitely not as much as, say, Thronebreaker, which is the other Gwent single-player game that was previous to Rogue Mage, rather. Rune Mage is a card in Gwent. I'm definitely going to say that a lot in the future. But, so that's another one that if you guys are liking Rogue Mage, then definitely check that out. It's more narrative-driven, and there's definitely more consequences for the choices that you make on those narrative decisions, and more different types of resource management. So feels a little more weighty for that reason, and so a little less chill, so to speak, compared to Rogue Mage. So I feel like it's nice to have those different options where if you're looking for something a little more serious, then you go the Thronebreaker or Gwent multiplayer route. If you're looking for something a little more casual, not too concerned about, don't want to stress out about what is the right decision to make, what is the right move to make, then throw on some Rogue Mage. But let's take a look. What happened to Reynard? So boost an ally unit by 1 wherever they are, all allied units by 1 wherever they are. That's the new part. Whenever you play unit, boost it by 1 and give it 1 armor. Okay, so that's new as well. So previously was just boosted by 1, no armor. So armor mitigates 1 damage. So that's a nice little bonus. Not huge, but it's something. And then this wherever they are means previously it was... actually, no, it was just boost adjacent allied units. Now it's boost all allied units, so we're going from at most boosting 2 to now boosting not only everything on the board, but everything in our hand and everything in our deck is what that means. So yeah, that's pretty significant. It's not like we're loading up on a ton of value on one specific card. It's not like it's, boost 1 single unit by 10. So it doesn't feel quite as dramatic for that reason, but that is still, in total, worth a lot. So nice. Very cool. And now we have the option of, after finishing this battle, and it does say, defeat them to evolve your key card. So I guess it says key card singular. I guess Reynard is our single key card. So that is the benefit of going to an elite battle. But we used a ton of energy there. I think we were on, the high 60s, so we used about half of that to go through that battle. So I feel like although there is another elite battle over here, it might be worth going to a place of power next where we can restore some of that energy, because this seems like a good time to do that. Let's go that route. You can upgrade a unit by 3, so yeah, this is the same type that we saw before. I guess the green one is always upgrade by 3. But I feel like we might not need the energy for normal battles, but for elite battles, it does certainly seem like that is going to be pretty much a requirement. So it seems like that's the right time to go that route. Okay. Now we have a random event here. Something interesting can be found. Now, last time we did one of these, we had to relocate, go different routes, so it didn't really benefit us. Hopefully, it's going to fare a little bit better this time around. So let's try it out. See what happens. That doesn't look good, though. Unstable place of power. You find an unstable place of power. We just did a normal place of power, so considering its condition, drawing energy from it could be dangerous. Gain 100 energy, but gain 2 wound cards, or leave. Okay, so, well, we did just restore some energy, so gaining more energy is not nearly as intriguing as it would have been if we had, say, instead gone the upgrade route. Of course, we have no way of knowing that this is what we were about to get. The option of choosing 2 wound cards. Remove self from your deck. Are they basically, it looks like they're just more or less filler cards, that if they end up in your hand, it means that they're wasting the space of what could otherwise be a card that actually generates value, whereas in this case they're just doing absolutely nothing. So that does look pretty bad. Now, to a certain extent, you might be able to mulligan them out, at least if they show up at the beginning of a round, but you might still end up drawing into them, which is not great. So I feel like that, and because we just picked up more energy not long ago, probably means we ought to leave here. So that's unfortunate that the 2 events that we've gotten thus far have both been, I mean, this one's not strictly negative, but given the circumstance, I think was not the right choice for us. So you know full well the dangers of the unknown. Deciding not to risk it, you leave the place of power and continue on your way. Okay, so that is unfortunate on several levels, because we do have another elite battle over here that we could choose to go for. However, I mean, if we loaded up on, if we had either more energy or another key card, or just good card, that we picked up, then that might have put us in a better position here. But we just saw that we used on the order of, what, like 35 energy last go round. So, I mean, we could still make it happen, but it does make me a little nervous because, I mean, yes, we, by that account, might have enough energy to complete this elite battle, but if we use up all of our energy to do that, then we might have none remaining for this normal battle, and eventually, we're looking to make our way over to the boss battle, which we're about, looks to be halfway toward doing. So it feels like if we could delay an elite battle a little bit longer, like maybe go treasure chest, normal battle, place of power to get some more energy back, normal battle. I mean, at this point, we could probably afford an elite battle, but are there any others? I mean, once we start getting close, I suppose we want to make sure that we're stockpiling up energy for that boss fight, so maybe that's not really something we want to see, is, you know, you want to do your elite battles fairly early on, where at least you have enough time to power up a bit, and enough time to recover with your energy afterward. So either way, I think we're probably taking, I mean, it's a treasure chest. Regardless. So what do we see this time? Okay, 3 options. Runic Disc. Spawn and play 3 random bronze units. Oh. I mean, they're random, so we've no control over them and how synergistic they may or may not be with the rest of our cards. But if we get this, that's still 3 cards from starting off as just 1 card is a very solid value, at least potentially. Of course, range of potential outcomes there. We did see Tears of Dragon previously, so it starts on the board. It's passive. I think that's what we established that means. So transform an allied unit into a random one. We can do that somewhat regularly with cooldown too. So I think, in particular, this would make sense for if we have a card that's gotten significantly damaged, down to 1 power, and we think it's about to get destroyed anyway, then we might as well roll the dice and see what we get out of this. So there's something to be said for that, but once again, a lot of randomness, and don't really know what we're getting, whereas this is the surest thing. It starts on the board, we're getting 6 points of value, and that's that. We passed up on it previously, but it is a little tempting, especially given how it feels like we might want a little more consistency at this stage. I think we go this route. I think we keep it simple here, and I feel like getting some consistency cards, especially early on, and just making sure that you have enough to get the job done whenever needed, and then, or at least in basic encounters, then you can start, once you have a few of those, looking for the more nice-to-have types of things where it's a little more up to luck. But I think on this occasion, we're looking at another elite battle or a normal battle, as I was saying before. I think it makes the most sense. It would be our final elite battle, I think, if we were to go this route, but I just don't think it makes sense given our current state of our energy. So let's hop into a normal battle here.
It's nothing personal.
Okay, so we do start off with this Hedge Knight on the board as we anticipated. So that's 6 points of value. Then what is your deal? Damage enemy unit by 1. Increase damage by 1 for each marked enemy unit. Cooldown 2 at the end of your turn. Mark a random non-marked enemy unit. Okay, so I mean, in some ways we'd like for them to try to damage this Hedge Knight because it has all this armor. So they're not going to be very successful if they try to go that route. And that means, well, I mean, other than that, of course, for the most part, we're still a boosting deck. So we have some boosts on the recruits. We have a target for those boosts with the Eternian Mauler. We have One-Eyed Betsy, who does have damage, but is not as synergistic with our other cards here. So I think we are, at the moment at least, looking to pour on as many boosts as possible on you, like we did previously. I think we're still dumping the Nekker, though. Okay, it's another Eternian Mauler, which getting a second one is not that valuable unless we see that these guys, much like we saw in the previous encounter, have some removal with things like poison. So I think we will go Temerian Drummer first, actually, because that means we can immediately start boosting up this Hedge Knight. Then we'll go the Eternian Mauler in between these guys, because that's our preferred boosting recipient. And both of our cards have armor right now. Okay, well, Philippe is dangerous. Because damage enemy... Okay, no, he's different. He's different in Rogue Mage. Damage enemy unit by 1. Cooldown 1 if the target has a status, damage it by 2. Oh, this is what he used to do. Okay, he recently got reworked in multiplayer Gwent, so he no longer does this, but this is what he used to do. So yeah, that means that they're going to be able to do a ton of damage to this Temerian Drummer. So, let's see, between you... Damage enemy unit by 1. Increase damage for each marked enemy unit, so that's going to be 2 damage, because we have 1 marked unit. You have 2 damage against a unit with a status, and this is a status with the mark. So, they can destroy this Temerian Drummer on their next turn, unless we choose to play another Temerian Drummer to the left of it, and boost this up, at which points it would just barely survive for 1 more turn. So, either that or, I mean, we could go Recruit here and give it a 3-point boost, but maybe it looks like this is just enough for the time being. So let's go that route. And then we might go Recruit after that. Except that can immediately destroy it. Didn't know if they're going to have additional damage with their next play, but they did. And immediate damage at that was the question. You know, it's one thing if they have a card that's going to take a turn to deal damage, which I was thinking was probably going to be the case. Then we could have at least snuck in a Recruit to boost the Temerian Drummer back up. But alas, was not the case. We can actually play a Temerian Drummer from our graveyard. Previously, this was always a spell that we were doing this with, because usually that was the only time we were getting something in our graveyard, because our opponents weren't using so much damage, but that is the case here. So we could get that Temerian Drummer back, which is kind of nice. And maybe, though, we do want to go here. Start boosting you up. And I think the earlier we use this, the better, right? Because we want to get as many boosts out of Temerian Drummer as we can. And do we boost up the card that is marked? I think we might.
Left, right.
So this guy will be on cooldown on their next turn, assuming they don't have a way to reduce that cooldown. And so that might mean that we're going to sneak in this One-Eyed Betsy, because this is a good time, or will be a good time on our next turn, to remove this to prevent them from dealing more damage with it. We want to get these down as quickly as possible. That's more damage. It is more damage. We'll see if they try to focus on you. Yeah. Okay. Now you're marked. I mean, if that's going to be your target of your damage, then that is fine. Technically, we draw into the Nekker. We would like to play this as quickly as possible, because the earlier we play it, the more boost we're going to get on it. On the other hand, I think because the earlier we get rid of the Brockbar Hunter, the more value, or we're denying them, that might still be worth doing, because they have a fair bit of damage. They are doing a lot of disruption here. So I think it is probably worth prioritizing getting rid of their stuff. Okay, now they're going for you. Mark an enemy unit and give it 3 bleeding. That is a card that I've never seen before. It is new to Rogue Mage. They are getting a lot of marks out here now. So we could... I mean, technically, as I was saying, Nekker next is kind of, by some accounts, the best play. At least for the Nekker specifically. However, if we're prioritizing other stuff like the Eternian Mauler here, then doing something like boosting it up by 4 or by 3 is certainly a nice thing as well. We do have another one as well, and we'd kind of like to get the chance to boost this up too, and if we still had another Temerian Drummer, then that would be a nice way to make that happen, but that's not so feasible anymore. So I think we might... we'll sneak in the Nekker. I don't love it, but we'll sneak in the Nekker. If they do destroy this, which is possible given how it has the mark, then suddenly we do have a backup plan. Of course, we'll miss out on some of the boosts here, but they are clearly a very damage-centric deck. So the bleed means we take 1 damage every turn, but on the other hand, the Temerian Drummer is boosting it up by 1 every turn. Okay, they do have enough damage here to remove something. Whoa, it's not the card I thought they were going to remove, though. Okay, so I think it is time to go this route here.
When I do the tenderizing, there's nothing left to fry.
Triggers the Thrives, so that is good. Let's see, in terms of card count here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we did go first. So although we're in the lead here, we do need to consider that they do have last say right now, so we really shouldn't be evaluating if we're in the lead at this point. We should be evaluating if we're in the lead once they take their turn, which seems like more often than not may not be the case. I'm looking at leader ability here, and given how close it is, might it be worth going for at least a little bit of stuff here. And it might be a little preemptive to boost up the Eternian Mauler, because we can't use its order ability immediately, which would be nice. But maybe giving a little boost to Temerian Drummer might not be the worst idea. Try to see if we can have this stick around for 1 more turn. Not just immediately get destroyed, because if it's on 1 HP, then Philippe can definitely destroy it. Brock for Hunter will be on cooldown, so that won't be an issue, but we know this guy can also deal damage, so, and they seem to have every single card in their hand is also a damage dealer. Generally, for what it's worth, we will do this, but generally, for what it's worth, dealing damage tends to be seen as preferable to... that's also not the card we would have liked to receive the boost. Random boost would have been great on you. But generally speaking, dealing damage tends to be seen as preferable to boosting, at least in multiplayer Gwents. Ooh, Falibor is, speaking of damage, fantastic damaging card.
The traitors have paid for what they did.
Fantastic damaging card that's... is the same as it is in multiplayer, although didn't see that they had set it up properly. Apparently they did, because I thought our Nekkers were all on 3 power. Maybe they whittled 1 down with the Bounty Hunter, or Philippe, without me noticing. Okay, so we have, however, managed to keep the Temerian Drummer on the board next to the Eternian Mauler, which was our goal here. So yeah, they have a 2-point lead at the end of their turn. That's the time that it actually matters. So I think what we're looking to do here now is recruit, Zoltan, finish with Girdle of Giant Strength. So it does give us a big finisher on this Eternian Mauler. It means we are investing heavily in this, and we do very much need it to stay on the board at this point, so we don't have a backup plan if it goes down now.
New orders? No?
Okay. So not that we necessarily have a preferred recipient of these hand boosts. Next one is, by definition, going to be Zoltan, but we could go leader ability, give you a boost, and then that would allow us to have enough damage to destroy Philippe. Is the most powerful of their damaging cards that they have on the board here. There is something to be said for that. It does seem as though it's not like last time where they're going to have a really highly boosted card that we can do 30 points of damage to and benefit from that in its entirety. You know, if we get 30 points of damage from the Eternian Mauler and they at most have a 7 power unit, then at most we're just getting 7 damage, which is not that good. But if we can cut off one of their damage dealers early, then that might be preferable. So I think we actually do go this route. And the extra boost goes on the Eternian Mauler. So yes, as I was just saying, 10 points of damage is already overkill. In terms of just pure damage, Falibor is 7 power, so that is the most valuable. But if you consider that Philippe is 5 and dealing 2 damage every turn over the course of the remainder of the game, that's going to be worth more. So we go after him. It does now mean that the Eternian Mauler no longer benefits especially from receiving boosts. mean, we still would like for that to happen from the Temerian Drummer, but
Blatant one.
that's, he's not getting the bonus value. Although, then again, we do still have the Girdle of Giant Strength, so there is something to be said for getting this as tall as possible, and then doubling it. That's definitely still preferable, come to think of it, even without the order ability. So I think we will still do this, and at this point, if we boost the Temerian Drummer, it might survive to the next turn, but in all likelihood, they're just going to destroy it. And at this point, there aren't too many turns left to benefit from it, so it's not a huge deal. I think we'll just prioritize setting this up for the bigger Girdle of Strength. Oh, a trap. Have we seen one of those before yet in Rogue Mage? So we don't know what this is going to do. But in all likelihood, whatever card we play next is going to disrupt in some way, shape, or form. So that does concern me a bit. Because Zoltan, I mean, he does have armor, so if it's going to damage the card that we play next, then he might even be able to tank that damage. Want to play him in between these two guys to give the boost to, most importantly, the Eternian Mauler, and it's not a huge deal for this, and still allow the Temerian Drummer to boost him at the end of our turn. That's why we're not boosting up the Temerian Drummer. So in multiplayer Gwent, there is a card that destroys your opponent's highest unit when you play a special card. This is a special card. Our highest unit is worth a whole lot of value. So I'm really hoping that's not what that does. Okay, there goes the Temerian Drummer. Rupture an enemy. Same as multiplayer. Basically what it does is, trigger immediately? Yeah. Does it? Okay, I'm not sure phrasing-wise. This might be ever so slightly different. It might just trigger slightly sooner. But it basically damages a card by its base power. So in the case of Eternian Mauler, it has 4 base power here. So it means that it dealt 4 damage. No, I don't think it did trigger immediately, because that little icon there is the sign that he has been ruptured. So I think that damage must have been coming from other stuff instead. We still have not seen what this trap does, which makes me really nervous, because on one hand, if playing a special card is going to destroy our highest unit, then we lose 18 points. We are definitely going to not benefit from this. I mean, we could, if it, order of operations wise, I'm not sure if we can still use this even after it gets destroyed, or if we just, or if it only after we apply the boost does this get destroyed. Because if we play it, destroys a card, and then we can still apply it to someone else, then still get okay value on the Hedge Knight. So that's not the end of the world, but there is a case to be made for just not playing this card at all if we think that it's going to prevent us from boosting anybody, or the card that we apply the boost to is going to then get destroyed. They do still have one more card, and they do still have additional damage that they're going to get. I think we have to take the risk. I think we have to go for... we do have to choose. Hold on. What if we use a leader ability to try to bait this out to see if that is what it does? Because I think we need to. Is it going to destroy you? It hasn't yet. I'm going to boost you just in case. It has not destroyed you. Okay. In that case, we will double you. I don't know what this is. I have no idea what that is. That is our last play. We have a very large lead here, but it's going to boost 2 random allied units by 4 when we pass, which shouldn't be enough for them to catch us, so in the end, it was overkill, but given how we didn't know what that trap was, felt like we needed to play it a little bit safe there. So we win. We've defeated the Bounty Hunter. And we can either add a card or remove a card. And at this point, it feels like we are at the point where removing a card might be helpful. And Morkvar, we added him, or actually upgraded something into him previously. And he is good in some situations, but he doesn't synergize as well with the rest of our deck. Ramon does give us more cards on the board, but does not directly give us boosts. But he is, does have some flexibility. Recruit does give us boosts, but is probably one of our weaker boosting cards. So there's a case to be made for dumping this. We could re-roll for energy. If there's a specific card that we really want to get rid of, I think we do dump you. So again, the idea there being that by removing our weaker cards, we have a higher probability of drawing into our stronger cards, and therefore we increase our consistency. So that's the theory, at least. But with that being said, I think that's a good place for us to stop here because we have, most importantly, seen what it's like to go through an elite battle, and it was significantly more challenging than the normal battles here. Even that normal battle there, it feels like they're starting to get a little more challenging as we go on, in large part because our opponents are not just trying to purely outscore us, they're actually trying to disrupt us with damage as well. So that has made it a little tough at times. But we are getting ever closer to reaching the final boss, or of this run, at least. I imagine that, of course, as time goes on, as we get more accustomed to the game mechanics and we're not as concerned about the precise nuances as we're seeing things for the first time, we'll go through a little more quickly. And it might be to the point where, you know, you can basically, in one sitting, go through a run, or maybe even multiple runs. But as things currently stand, I definitely like getting the chance to slow down a little bit, take it easy, see what's different from between multiplayer, Thronebreaker, and Rogue Mage, and it's just enjoying the game, you know, especially as we were saying before, it feels like Rogue Mage, compared to those other Gwent alternatives, has a different feel to it. It's a little more, I mean, it comes with a little bit of a cliche, well, it comes with a little bit of a negative baggage, if you will, but it's a little more casual, if you will. It's easier to play, it's also, that also sounds negative, but it's not as much of, it doesn't require as much brain power, and for that reason, it means that, hey, if you're tired after a long day of work, or whatever, or you've been playing a lot of Gwent, maybe you had a frustrating match, Gwent multiplayer, where you lost in a game that you felt like you should have won, you made a misplay, and you're feeling kind of down about that, and you don't really want to continue to play more Gwent multiplayer because you feel like that might lead you to make some bad decisions and end up throwing a few more games and just making matters worse. It's a nice way to cool off a little bit, take it easy for a while, and just play that's what I mean by more casual run. But I like it. I like it a lot. So we will, of course, look to proceed and possibly make it all the way to the boss on our next go-through here. And also worth noting that while we may be ending this one here, we will be streaming Rogue Mage soon. In fact, later today, so stay tuned for that on Twitch. Lid's Vids there as well, so I'm looking forward to taking that on soon. Thank you all for watching, hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you next time.